Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is August 27th, 2024. This is episode 263. Stand-up comedian, improviser, and actor Paul Green. But more than all of that, I am a dreamer, my friends. I am currently pursuing my dream of stand-up comedy and acting and all of that fun stuff. If this is your first time joining me, welcome. Mostly in this podcast, I am sharing what I am learning along the way as I pursue a very challenging journey of being a stand-up comedian in this highly competitive world. So, yeah, I talk a little bit about just what it's like being a comedian, talk a lot about just my philosophy in general on life and pursuing dreams in general. And currently, I am also sharing my thoughts on the 48 Laws of Power, because I'm way into books and philosophy and any philosophy that talks about how you should live your life, or at least give some opinions on how you should live your life based off of what outcomes you want. So, let's get to the updates. So, I actually happen to be in Los Angeles, California at the moment, and I drove out here yesterday with my papa, and I drove out here for a very specific reason. And that reason was to see, which I probably think is the greatest live performance ensemble I am aware of in the world. And yes, I mean every word of that. The performance group that I am referring to is a troupe known as the Improvised Shakespeare Company. I have been familiar with these gentlemen probably for just under 10 years. I probably first learned about them shortly after moving to LA, sometime around there. And how do I even begin to unpack this troupe? I'll say this first of all. Improvisational comedy is an incredibly niche art form. It's been around for a while. It's been around probably 50, 60 years. It sprung up in Chicago, if I remember my history correctly. And ultimately, improv started as really a class to help train actors to be more present and to be more spontaneous and, be better listeners and all of this. And so out of that training, it started to become clear that there were certain improvisational exercises that were being taught to actors to help them just be better, actors, that some of those improvisational games and exercises were actually entertaining in and of themselves. And I should know the history of improv better. There's a whole book on it. I want to say it was Del Close. I don't think Del Close started. I think Del Close started Second City. Oh my gosh. All the improvisers out there, the diehards, are going to be rolling in their, well, if they are dead, they're rolling in their graves. Del Close started one of the big troupes in Chicago. It was either I.O. or Second City. I don't remember all the details of this. But ultimately, there was this school that emerged, and then also started to realize that improvisation, improv acting, is an art form in and of itself, and a performance art form, not merely a training tool for actors who were looking to act on screen or television or whatever. And thus, improv was born as a performance art. So anyway, even though improv is a performing art, like I said, it is incredibly niche. It's a much smaller market than, say, like stand-up comedy, whereas almost everybody knows a stand-up comedian who they like. And, maybe wouldn't mind buying a ticket to see, whether that's a Jerry Seinfeld or, a Kevin Hart or a Dave Chappelle, a Sarah Silverman. Who are some of the, most famous stand-up comedians alive right now? Tim Allen's still alive, I think. Ellen. All of these world-famous comedians. Jimmy Carr? So anyway, stand-up comedy is a much more ubiquitous performance art form. And then, if you want to go to even just more general than that, it's like live theater. Everybody knows what plays are. Everybody knows what musicals are. Everybody knows what a dance concert is. Everybody knows what the ballet is, what opera is. What the circus is, what Circus du Soleil is, what the Blue Man Group is. So, who Carrot Top is, right? So you have these live performing acts or genres that are fairly ubiquitous. And then you have improv comedy, which is a subset of live sketch comedy, stand-up comedy to an extent, but it's this sort of derivative art form where you have a group of actors who have no scripts, no planned out dialogue. They may have some format in terms of some improv games that have some structure to them. And the whole idea is every improv show, to some degree or another, involves audience participation. And the degree to which the audience participates is really just contingent on what sort of improv we're talking. Gosh, do I really want to get into this too much more? I'll just talk about one more element. So we are now in the subgenre of improv, which again is everything is made up on the spot, inspired by the audience, but there are no real props, there's no sets, there's no costumes, there's no scripts. Everything is created in the moment and made up on the spot by the performers. All props are mimed. All scenes and sets are all mimed, pantomimed. If all of a sudden the actors create that they are in a factory, like a I Love Lucy sketch, nobody's going to come in and build that set real quick. So the actors are just going to pantomime that they are on an assembly line and, putting parts together. So of improv, there is basically two general improv formats, and those two formats can be broken down even more. There's long-form improv and there is short-form improv. Long-form improv generally means that there is one improv game that will last the duration of the show. A herald is an example of a long-form improv game where the herald starts out by getting one audience suggestion, and then there are a series of vignettes all inspired by that one suggestion. But that format stays true. It lasts the length of the show. They get the one suggestion, and then all of the scenes and vignettes are all generated from that one suggestion. There's a handful of long-form formats. I'm not going to go into all of them. So there's long-form. The other type of improv, generally speaking, is short-form improv. Anybody who's ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? Whose Line Is It Anyway is a short-form improv show where there are multiple games that are really designed to last, between 3 or 5 minutes. Maybe some go a little longer, maybe some go a little shorter. Each improv game starts with some sort of audience suggestion. And so in a short-form show, the audience may get to offer up multiple suggestions for each game. Some games require the audience to provide multiple suggestions to get the improv game started. And so that's short form. So again, now of those two genres, long form is probably even more niche than short form. And the only reason short form is maybe slightly more popular is it is a little bit more palatable. It's a little bit lower risk. And really because of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Whose Line Is It Anyway is really the only sort of mainstream improvisational comedy show that actually got TV time. It's really, really hard to produce improv for TV or movies. Some people have been able to pull it off. Christopher Guest, if you know that name, he was on SNL. He's a movie producer. He did This Is Spinal Tap, cult classic. He did Waiting for Guffman. He did Mighty Wind. He did Best in Show. He did Mascots. And his movies, all of the dialogue is improvised. However, the movies are very, very formatted. So even though all of the dialogue is improvised, there's a tremendous amount of work that he puts into creating the flow of the movie, creating the characters, creating the plot, so there is an overall story. So what does all this have to do with anything? So the Improvised Shakespeare Company is a long-form improvised show. There are typically 5 to 6 cast members. It's this group of guys that started in Chicago, the birthplace of improv, and they were just huge Shakespeare nerds, and they just said, hey, we love Shakespeare, we love improv, we want to improvise a Shakespeare play, a Shakespeare-style play. Now, it's long form because it's one format that lasts the duration of the entire show. They get one audience suggestion. The audience suggestion they get at the top of the show is, what is a title of a made-up Shakespeare play or a play that Shakespeare never wrote? And the audience can yell out anything they can possibly think of. And once they sort of hear a title, they will take that title and then they proceed to improvise a Shakespearean style play for almost 2 hours. And when I say they improvise a Shakespearean play, I cannot even begin to articulate the quality of these performers' Shakespearean knowledge and their capacity to use Elizabethan English, Shakespearean imagery, Shakespearean plot tropes, Shakespearean plot devices, the imagery and the styles and the character types. I mean, it is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And not only are they improvising in Shakespearean tonalities and Shakespearean themes and Shakespearean dialogue, they also are the funniest performers I have ever seen in my life. And I have been eating, drinking, breathing, comedy, acting, improvisation pretty much for about the last 16 years of my life. The last 16 years of my life, I have been knee-deep in some sort of comedic venture. I was in a short-form improv troupe for 7 years. It got to the point to where I was performing with that troupe multiple times a week. I was teaching improv classes. I was doing improv understudy programs. I created a music improv curriculum and was doing music improv. Music improv is also a subgenre of both long-form and short-form improv styles. There's long-form musical improv and short-form musical improv. And then in 2014, I started getting into stand-up comedy. And so I've been involved in stand-up comedy now since 2014, and then improv comedy to some degree or another during that time as well. And I can honestly say the Improvised Shakespeare Company is by far the funniest show I have ever seen. Funnier than any stand-up comedian, and I have seen some unbelievably funny stand-up comedians and unbelievably famous stand-up comedians. I've seen Bill Burr live. I've seen Drew Lynch live. I've seen Sarah Silverman live. I've seen Judd Apatow live. I've seen Dane Cook. I've seen Craig Robinson. Recently, I saw Craig Robinson. I have seen so much stand-up comedy, so much improv comedy. And I would rather watch the Improvised Shakespeare Company over any other available performance ever. and I'm not exaggerating. It is how good they are. Their capacity to take any random title and weave that in to not only a Shakespearean style play that has very distinct characters, very distinct character arcs, a very clear plot line. The actors end up playing multiple characters. You're able to follow along on what the plot is and who's up to what. And then they're able to take those characters, all improvised, no plans. None of them have any idea where it's going. They're able just to stay present all the way through and sculpt this improvised play out of nothing for almost 2 hours. Tonight's show was about an hour and 35 minutes that they did this. And by the way, and I've seen him do them multiple times. I've probably been to maybe a dozen of their shows over the years. They perform about once a month. Every time I've seen them has been at the same venue, which holds about 400 seats, and they sell out 400 seats. What's so remarkable about that is, as I said earlier, improv is a very niche market. So the fact that an improv troupe that's also Shakespeare, because Shakespeare, I mean, you know, Shakespeare is obviously a lot more universal for literature nerds and actor nerds, but, you know, I don't think the world at large would think Shakespeare would be something entertaining. I think the kind of general public views Shakespeare as really confusing and long and boring. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just my general assumption. So I just love these guys. I absolutely love this troupe. And any opportunity that I have to go see them, like I'm on their email list, I try to go. I have also wanted my parents to see them because, my parents are getting of a certain age. I don't know how much longer they're going to be around. And I want to have as many experiences with them and offer them as many experiences in life that I can. Because who knows? Another 10 years, another 20 years, who knows? So what was really cool is the Shakespeare Company was performing tonight or last night, which is a Monday, and they almost never perform on a Monday. That was really weird. So I figured, all right, my dad usually works on the weekends. The last time the Improvised Shakespeare Company was performing, it was on a weekend, and I tried to make it work to get my dad out to see them, but he couldn't get work off. So they were performing on a Monday, and I'm like, Dad, we are doing this. So what ends up happening is I find out they're performing on a Monday. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I could get out to LA with my pops on a Monday to see these guys, or if he would be down if he wants to go. So a few days ago, I talked to him, just say, hey, Shakespeare Company, Monday night, do you want to go? Do you want to make it happen? I start talking it up. He's like, cool, yeah, let's do it. Why not? So I'm like, sweet. So then I go to their website, and they're sold out. But then I notice they also created a Tuesday night show. So then that show had some tickets. So then I was like, all right, Pops, I know I talked you all up for Monday. They're sold out on Monday. Could we maybe try to make Tuesday work? However, I am kind of friends with one of the performers in the Improvised Shakespeare Company because when I was living in LA, I actually hired him to do some coaching of an improv troupe that I was in. Really cool guy. Absolutely brilliant improviser. I cannot even begin to quantify or qualify how brilliant this man's brain is. His name is Ross Bryant. Or Brandt. So I just go ahead and buy tickets for Tuesday, but then I email or I message Ross on Instagram to say, hey, man, wanted to come out from Phoenix to see your show Monday night, but you're sold out. Can we get some comps? And I didn't hear back from him right away, so that's when I went and bought the Tuesday night tickets. And then I was like, all right, Dad, can we do Tuesday instead? He's like, cool. And then Ross comes back to me. He says, oh, guess what? I was able to get you 2 comps for Monday night. Then I say to my pops, Dad, we are going to go see the Improvised Shakespeare Company 2 nights in a row. So I am now in LA with my pops. We watched the first show of the Improvised Shakespeare Company last night, and we will be watching a second tonight. And the first show already. Oh my gosh. So unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I realize I've been talking about this for about 24 minutes. What does any of this have to do with me or comedy or my journey or going for dreams or any of that stuff? Well, first of all, I have found in my life that the most valuable expression of time for me is experiences. And I feel it is so easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day grind of life, and that's a necessity. We've all got bills to pay. We've all got, mortgages and rents and leases to pay, and electric bills, and, keeping yourself safe, keeping your family safe. So I am fully aware of that. However, I am also so very much aware that our time on this earth is so short. In the grand scheme of all existence, it's a blink of an eye. 200 years from now, nobody will even know that any of us existed. Most likely. Unless, one of us becomes the next Hitler or something. Then maybe the history books might remember you. And what would you rather do than going and experiencing a performance from individuals who, in my opinion, are the best in the world at what they do? And I mean, what else is there than to be able to experience that? And that, to me, is part of this whole crazy idea that I keep talking about. This crazy idea of going for dreams that, you may not get them, but the experience of going for them, to me, is more valuable than anything else that may get in the way. And I should be very clear here, because I know this sounds very woo-woo, and it sounds almost immature and irresponsible. I am not advocating irresponsibility. I'm not advocating, screw it, I'm going to cash out all of my money and go to Vegas and put it all on black. That I know it may come across as a very much, just live in the moment, man. There is no tomorrow. No, that's not what I'm advocating. Because there is a very real pragmatism to dreaming as well. And going and having virtuous experiences that enhance life and that inspire and that uplift. I mean, I watch these guys performing, and it's transcendent, and it is outer worldly, and I see this and I go, man, there is such a depth and incredible depth. Did I say depth already? Look at that. I'm already trying to be like Shakespearean and poetic, and I feel like I'm being redundant here. So, anyway, I just thought, hey, 5 of the most incredible improv comedian performers in the world are doing 2 shows 6 hours away. I have wanted to take my dad out to see these guys for years. I was fortunate enough to take my mom out to see them a couple of months ago. And why not? It's not that far of a drive. A couple $100 in hotels, a couple bucks in gas, and we get to have the experience of a lifetime. And that, to me, is where I find the deepest and greatest value in life, is these types of experiences. And when I watch those guys, I think to myself, man, not only do I want to have those experiences, but I want to generate those experiences for other people. I want to be somebody who is that inspirational, that when people come and see me, they will also have those types of experiences. I know that sounds very selfish, and part of it is selfish, but there's another part of it that is like, no, I want to hone my craft and hone my abilities as a performer and as an improviser and as a comedian, so that people will be able to have an experience with me. And that to me is the power of having a dream and going for a dream, is when you are going for it and you're having those experiences, it is transcendent. And yes, the journey is fraught with peril and ups and downs. And, it's, maybe you don't actually, you're not able to accomplish the dream in the quantifiable sense that you were hoping for, but you will not be able to replace the experiences. And to me, the experiences are worth more than anything else, both the bad and the good. And I am just so grateful, and I feel so fortunate that I'm in a position to where I can be like, oh my gosh, the Improvised Shakespeare Company is performing in LA just a few hours away. I don't know how many more years I have on this planet with my dad. Could be 20. It could be 5, could be 1. I don't know. So why not go have an experience and let him experience this too? Because I have been talking about these guys for years. So, man, I keep on talking a lot longer than I anticipate. And I have not been commenting on the 48 Laws of Power. That's fine, because I'm kind of critical of the book anyway, and I am a lot more passionate and positive about my philosophies on being a dreamer in life and going for these types of experiences. So anyway, everybody, I hope you're all out there having incredible experiences, getting out there and enjoying life, all that it has to offer, all the ups and downs, and that you are finding joy and fulfillment as you do so. So I am going to call it a night. It's been a long day. I've got a long day tomorrow. But that long day is going to end with another performance of the Improvised Shakespeare Company. So I will check in with you tomorrow, let you know how that goes. All right, everybody, that's all for today. It is August 27th, 2024, episode 263 of the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.